Welcome, everybody, to this episode of Let's Talk About It, where we come together and we talk about a different topic and how it affects the Black community economically. This is session 3 of a special series that we have on ownership versus participation in the digital economy. And so today we're going to be talking about how communities can own the digital economy infrastructure. So, where is my share button? They have reorganized things. Here we go. All right, so as always, I start with the disclaimer that the information provided in this discussion is strictly for educational purposes. Strongly encourage you to consult with licensed financial advisors, attorneys, or tax professionals before making any significant financial decisions or investments. And though I do have decades of business experience, I am not licensed or registered with any regulatory authority. And with that, we're going to start with a quick, short 2-minute video to give an overview of the topic we'll be discussing today. Let me share my sound, and here we go.
All right, let's dive in. We're talking about a huge idea, community ownership in our digital economy. So let's start with a question. Think about the apps and platforms you use literally every single day. See, most of us participate in the digital economy, but here's the thing. Very few of us actually own it. So what exactly is the system we're all in? It's the digital infrastructure, which is way more than just apps. It all starts with you, right? You create the data, the content. You're the engine generating all this value. But it's the platforms that control how that value gets monetized and who even sees what you create. And because of that, the value you create almost always flows upward, not back to you. You know, this isn't a new thing. Value creators rarely ever own the systems that they power. So what does real ownership even look like? What does it actually mean? Well, it means equity, like shares. It means a say in decisions, a piece of the revenue, and control. And this is super important. Access is not ownership. Just using something doesn't mean you control it. You can think of it in 4 layers: owning the platform, the data, the financial infrastructure, and distribution. But, there are some major hurdles. We're talking lack of capital, fragmented efforts, and platform dependency. So, how can we actually overcome these things? The biggest problem isn't tech, it's about getting organized. And that's where community ownership comes in. It's a model where users collectively fund, build, and control things. And there are a few ways to get there. You can build new platforms, buy existing ones, or even invest. Because if we don't own the systems, we just keep building wealth for the people who do. So it all comes down to this. Are you going to participate, or are you going to own?
All right, and with that, I'm going to jump directly into the short presentation. So we'll spend most of our time talking about how communities can own digital infrastructure. So we're going to be focusing on these questions. Who owns the systems that we use today? Who controls the value being created? And who benefits long term? So the bottom line is that most people participate in the digital economy, but very few own it. So the reality is that users create content, engagement, and most importantly, the data, but the wealth flows up because it's the platforms that own the monetization and the distribution. So participation generates activity, but ownership is what generates wealth. And we have been using the example of the athlete versus the league, to use the sports equivalent. So you've got the athlete slash user, generates billions of dollars in entertainment and engagement value, does secure some income through NIL, which is name, image, likeness, but ultimately that's transient wealth versus the league, which creates and owns the infrastructure. It owns the media rights, the stadiums, the distribution. It also controls governance and long-term equity. So it generates generational wealth. And you can just look at the professional sports team owners, and you will see that the majority of them are owned by families that have passed on the ownership from generation to generation. Now, this is very important when we talk about digital infrastructure. Most of us are familiar with the apps, right? Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, TikTok. But that's just the tip of the iceberg. Um, what is below the surface really constitutes the majority of the infrastructure. So you've got data systems, which are the behavioral engines and the analytics. You've got the payment systems. That's the plumbing of how the money flows. Then you have the distribution, which is the algorithms that control audience access. And then there's the hosting. This is the digital real estate, the cloud, the servers that all of this runs on. So infrastructure is what captures and controls value. So right now we have the illusion of control through participation. So we believe that through accessing the platform, that we're creating some sort of value. But the reality is that those who own the system govern the ecosystem. We, as participants, provide usage and activity, whereas the owners, they own equity, shares, units, tokens. We're rewarded as participants in, a share of the ad revenue, or we get likes, whereas the owners, they get revenue rights, they get dividends, they get revenue distributions. Um, our data, our data is monitored by the system, but we don't control our own data. It's the owners of the platform that control the data and the monetization from that data. And so the sports equivalent is, again, being athletes playing in the game versus being the team owner and owning the stadium. So access is not ownership and usage is not control. So the four layers of ownership, they mimic the layers of the data infrastructure. So you've got that top layer, which is platform ownership, owning the application, the interface, or the digital ecosystem itself. Then there's the data ownership, controlling, securing, and leveraging user behavior and data. That's where the money is at. That's where the platforms are able to sell their targeted advertising, is based on the analytics that they do on the data that's provided from our usage of the platform. Then there's the financial infrastructure, owning the capital formation, funding these platforms, and the plumbing of the money. And then finally, there's distribution control. This is owning audience access and the algorithms and the communication channels. So those four layers of ownership are critical in what we as a community need to focus on. So what's the barrier to entry? The primary constraint is organization, not technology, because the technology is there, right? It's the lack of coordinated capital. It's fragmented individual efforts. It's dependence on external rent-seeking platforms. And there's some regulatory complexities. So here's the model for community ownership, and there's a couple of them. So the first one is investment networks like the closed private investment network. So the CPIN model centralizes focus and resources. The CPIN model is all about bringing together like-minded people that want to practice cooperative group economics, educating them from a financial perspective, and then providing investment opportunities that are curated. Um, so the closed private investment network, CPIN, is a great example of an investment network. You've got pooled capital. When you pool your capital together, um, you the shared risk replaces being vulnerable, just going out there doing it by yourself. Um, and and so it spreads the risk across a wider base. There are private ecosystems where you create environments with controlled access and retained value. So I call these niche communities. And you can see that from a social perspective, this is where we're moving to as a culture, is into these niche communities. Um, and with technology, these niche communities are able to create barriers of access. They're able to control their data, and then they're able to determine who they share their data with and how they get rewarded or compensated for sharing that data and for sharing access. And so you've got collective structures shifting from individual usage to shared infrastructural ownership. We've used the example of fan base, and fan base doing crowdfunding, in which it allowed the users of the platform to own part of the platform. And so that's one example of community ownership. Now, let's talk about the engine of acquisition. And so there's four pathways of how a community can go about um, acquiring a digital platform. So once you get your pooled capital together, you can build it. You can develop proprietary ecosystems from the ground up. The prime example is the No Backboard Basketball League, which is building an entire ecosystem from the ground up. So that's an example of build. The second is to buy, and we'll hear from Tim Hawley's experience and his company buying a platform, um, and but that's one example, is pulling your money together and going and buying an existing platform. The third is invest. Again, I'll go back to Fanbase and through their crowdfunding platform, where as a user, you could now invest directly in the platform that you use. And then the fourth is aggregate. This is where you combine existing community assets into a unified structural force. So this is where several different existing platforms come together in order to aggregate their users, aggregate their resources, and to form a bigger ecosystem. But it all leads to controlled access and collective ownership. So, what is the next step? So, the next step is structural. So, first and foremost, I recommend that everyone join the closed private investment network. And I'll put a link in the chat for you to join. Participate in immediate ownership opportunities through crowdfunding sites, through private placement opportunities, which is how CPEN um, raises and coordinates its money. Invite aligned individuals to pool influence, get together with like-minded people, and commit to collective economics, right? So that's a mindset. It's a belief system that we go further together collectively than we do individually. Because the bottom line is, if we don't own the systems, we will continue to build wealth for those who do. And with that, that's the end. I told you it's going to be a short presentation. Um, but I'd like to hear first and foremost from Mark. He is the president of the No Backboard Basketball League, and he and his organization are co-sponsoring this series. And so, Mark, I want to hear your take about um, communities owning the digital infrastructure.
Absolutely. And I appreciate it, Mike. Welcome. Good evening, everybody. Let me just piggyback off of your presentation, because as you were speaking, a couple of examples that recently I heard in the news came to mind that drives home the point of participation, but not participating because you're not owning, you're not participating in the upside. So the NBA has announced they're expanding to two more teams here in the United States. This is on top of their current investment efforts in Africa. I think they're 4 years into that league, and then the anticipated launch of, I believe, 12 teams in Europe in partnership with some of the premier soccer clubs that have basketball clubs. In addition to that, two more teams here in the United States. And what's interesting is the buy-in is expected to be $8 billion per team. And it was noted that the athletes will not participate, that when there's expansion and the people buy in to be part of the Good Boys Club, that money is not part of the collective bargaining agreement. So $16 billion are going to come into the ecosystem based upon the value that's being created by the participants, but the participants are not going to participate in that windfall of economic opportunity that's coming. And then fragmentation. Based upon my personal research, leveraging AI, et cetera, I did this exercise in the mid last year. It's estimated over the past decade, that African American NBA players, so these are players that are born in the United States and they are Black or African American in origin, that group of players have generated, have earned a gross of $25 billion collectively. Yet we can't really point to anything in the marketplace. And if you haven't heard Jaylen Brown's conversation with 19 Keys, Jaylen Brown is a all-star / superstar guard forward for the Celtics, very outspoken, has his own shoe line, has done a lot of independent things, almost like a Kyrie Irving, but a bit more sophisticated on the business side. He's a Berkeley graduate. And he sat down with 19 Keys, who's a cultural guy, group economics. And the thing he pointed out as you start reading the contracts early in his career is how the athletes give up their agency. So you have this fragmentation, and a lot of fragmentation that prevents the collective activity in that ecosystem, in that business model, is the You have the athlete, and then you have his center of the universe. You have his supporters. Many of those supporters um, value proposition in life isn't maybe totally in line with the athlete. And I think the last thing I'll land the plane here. Uh, I just heard about this most recently by a young gentleman who apparently NBA player. I think his name is something Ivy, and because he expressed his personal views on the LGBTQ community, et cetera, that the Bulls released him. So uh, we want to be able to control our own narratives, uh, be able to support our own communities. The more that we, to Mike's point, the purpose of this series of conversations, to understand that we're giving up a lot of agency, we're giving up a lot of economic opportunity by continuing to participate in and spend our money in areas that are not incentivized to invest back into our community.
Thank you, Mark. Thank you. And Tim, when we met last, you talked about a company that that you were involved in buying. Um, you want to talk to us about that experience, and because it's a digital infrastructure company, but you want to talk about that
Sure.
experience?
The name of the company is called Artelligence, like augmented reality AR Intelligence Holdings. And when I came to it, it was a public company called Totochrome. It's a pink sheet, or it was less than a pink sheet. It's what we call. Well, it was a pink sheet company. I won't talk about it so badly, but it didn't have any revenue. But it borrowed all this money and spent it developing its platform, which is called ArcNet. It's a mobile app, and they put it to work. And these guys had no sales. They had no business acumen. Let me be honest about that. They had no idea what they were doing, except they had a good idea, they thought, and they had a lot of things they want to do with it. So they spent time and money building out this app. And they have all the things that you need. The storage, they got all the storage facility for all your data, and controlling of the data and where it goes, and how it goes, so you don't have to worry about the data being lost and things like this. So whole data management, whole back office, everything. But they had no sales, they had no idea, even though the company has 7,000 shareholders. And my view was like, don't you know where there's a market? There's 7,000 people there. And you can put them all online. And if they buy into the system, at $9.95 a month, at $9.95 a month, you got revenue. Well, they didn't think that deeply. The company has 11 patents, all related to imagery and also to this technology of the ArcNet. So when I stepped in, it was not because I was interested in all of their stuff. I didn't really care. I cared only about one aspect of their technology that's not in here, called that's based on a type of special watermarking. And I did that because I own a company that has the world's largest private collection of images that we own. A lot of these places, like everybody says, well, Getty owns all the images. No, they don't. Um, Getty has 40 million newspaper images. We have, and of those 40, 20 are owned by Getty. The other 40 are on consignment. We own 100, over 100, and they're all ours. We have both the digital copy and the original. So the provenance of our holdings is without question. So anyway, I was looking to get with this company to be able to use their watermark on my images. And when I got there, it was only two guys who were in offices of the company, and and they said, one of them said, the CEO said, "Would you come and join our board?" I said, "Sure, but I'm not trying to take over your company now. You know that." He said, "No, but come and join the board." That was in January of 2023, and by May, I was the CEO and chairman and CEO of the company, because I had taken over the company, okay, because they had no ideas, and I took over the company, and put my own things put my assets into the company, developed some intellectual property for the company, but I had not utilized the ArcNet. The ArcNet is very well is a mobile app that can do things that are very unique. I mean, it can teleport. Like for example, in when we talk about the basketball games, can you imagine that the kids are out playing a game somewhere, okay, and they're playing no backboard basketball somewhere in the streets like we used to as kids, right? But we hung a basket up in the alley, and so and you had no backboard to it whatsoever. Well, up to date, kids can take their phones, show the game, look at what happens with the game, and we can see it anywhere we want to see it. Also, too, the augmented reality features that we can put in there allow us to do when a player is playing, we can put some things about his stats, background, all that kind of stuff can go in there as augmented reality because we change in augment reality. It may be playing in the alley, but you can look and think it's playing inside the gymnasium because of the way you design it. So that's a little bit of gaming that can go in there, but there are a lot of other things that can go in. This augmented reality does not require always to have a headset, and that's one of the good things about this particular unit is something that can be done on your mobile app, and you have it's a mobile app, so on your phone, whether it's iOS or Android, doesn't make a difference. It works on both of them very well. It's agnostic, so you can actually experience this thing with the augmented reality. So it's a way to have your platform. And how did I take over the company without $1? Without $1, and trust me, y'all want to talk to me because I am a takeover master. Ain't gonna lie. I teach people how to take over companies all day long, and it's all about can you pay attention to what your opportunity is, what you can do that they can't do, your niche, right? Your competitive advantage is what, and is it really worth any money, worth any value? That's what drives this whole situation. So for me, like I said, I went in, I saw a company was in trouble, real trouble. I went to help them out. When I went to help them out, I saw what they had, and I said, okay, fine. Now I'm bringing out this ArcNet piece back slowly, and because quite frankly, I wasn't going to do anything with it until I ran into no backboard basketball league. And I said, oh, this kind of works together. And when I threw the AI at it and says, oh yeah, this works fine. This is what you're supposed to do. Then it opens some other avenues of what I was thinking about. Uh, it has everything
Well,
from
with
commerce, everything you want. So go ahead. No, T, I
me,
thought, yeah, T, I thought you had something you
yeah,
were saying.
yeah, it's opportunity to be on the phone with you consistently now for some time. So I know a bit about your background, and I realize you're my senior, and I give you a gain of respect. But that is perfect. And the mere fact that you say that you thought about me, that was someone else speaking to you, because that's in our business plan.
That's absolutely true. It was. Quite frankly, after we spoke, I went out and I was supposed to be trying to go to bed, but I wound up getting on Perplexity and saying, "Perplexity, take me to where we are." And you know what our stuff is, and I had to go wake up the number one engineer who worked on it back in and put it together and said, "Jordan, I don't care if you got to go to work in the morning. You go talk to me now." And so, so I see it. And what it does is that it opened me to be able to say, not only can I do this with no backboard basketball league, but any other kind of connection that you want to make, you can
That part.
develop your own communities over this situation, right? So he and I talked about that. So well, we can go ahead and license it out in a different way for all other kinds of communities, right? Why not a national CPIN on your app? Right? Where it's
Hmm.
running on it. But you have to have but he was sensitive to it. He understood uh, controlling the data and controlling what gets on and where it goes. And we're looking at augmented reality because that's a reality that we need to focus on. That's the next wave. And I don't mean the virtual thing where you put the glasses on and stuff like this. Like I said, that's fine. But then that becomes hardware, whereas everybody's got a phone.
Hmm. Hmm.
Everybody's got a phone. Everybody can use their phone, and that's the key. Um, and to be quite frank about it, we started. It had me up, and I started looking at all the other possibilities. But but yours was really important to me because I thought about at the vendor. My scientist guy was saying, well, what are you going to do business-wise? He's white guy. What are you going to do business-wise? I said, don't worry
Mhm.
about the business. He said,
Mhm.
well, I don't know
Mhm.
about this business. I said, you don't understand. Do you know if you put it at a nice monthly piece like $9.95, do you know
Mhm.
how many kids who play basketball and could be and see a game somewhere and take and have their phone out recording it and everybody sees it live and streaming, and then somebody said, well, watch me do this. I can do a 360 uh 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 as well. After I can pass the ball under my legs as I do a 360 and slam it. I mean, the excitement from fans or the students, those who participate, the athletes, will be enormous because and then they get to own their own stuff. And oh, by the way, they own it, but guess what? It's stored in a digital vault, so to speak, right? So you don't have to worry about okay, well, who's got the vault? Who's doing that? So
Right.
we'll talk about how we as we grow because as I said, you started this and I wasn't even, man, please, I wasn't even thinking. I kept always trying to think, what does no backboard basketball mean, right? And who is this? Who is this Who is this Mark Armstrong? And even AI said it's Mark T. Armstrong. He's the leader of this thing. So I got so impressed. I was like, okay, so yeah, we think we have a product that can help you, but it's just something that we have to do. Now, I will tell you this: we always need to go and find these companies, and if you can't take over the company, you can. If you can't take over the company, that's one thing, but you can always do a deal with them and take over companies. Um, I don't care
Mhm.
how big they are. Is That's what they're there for somebody to take them over and take it a different direction. I'll be honest with you. I my board just recently we had a situation where we were looking at trying to do a takeover of Sprout Social. Now,
Mm.
yeah, Sprout Social.
Whoa. Whoa.
Yes. And the only thing was that one of my directors said, "Why would we take over Sprout Social? It's got 490 million in revenue, but it's got no earnings. And
Mhm.
so, how can a SaaS company have no earnings?
That
You have
part.
no capital expenditures. Somebody burning up some money somewhere." He said, "So why should we do that? Find another way." So I found another way. I just came up with another strategy just at 4 o'clock this morning, right? Well, oh, we're gonna do this and we'll do that. Now I will also say again, I say this many times when we've been on here. I have a different market than you guys. My market for
Mhm.
business is, and everybody black on here should pay attention to it. You have to go after the $1 billion round table.
Mhm.
Why turn your back on 43 companies that spend $1 billion a year on diversity companies?
Mm.
You, they don't get these 43 didn't give a damn about what Trump said about DEI. They spend more than $1 billion each. I mean, Microsoft spent 18 billion.
Mm.
So they're always looking for tier one players in any field whatsoever that can help them. But they want to make sure that who owns it. They want to make sure that you can do it, and they'll start off with a small contract. By the third year, you got a large contract. But the problem is,
Mm.
by the third year, all the black businesses. By the third year, the guy comes home and says, "Yeah, I'm looking at that new $10 million contract, and we're gonna make about $2 million on it." Next thing you know, he gets a knock on the door and this is what happens from a white guy who says, "I'll give you 3 million cash for that contract for your business. I'll buy your
Mm.
business and pay you so you can have 3 million cash."
Mm.
And you know what happens? The wife says, "Hey, that's money in the bank. So you got to earn that other money. Let's sell it." Well, they sell the business, and the white guy now his business is a part of, say, Microsoft, and so he's a bona fide supplier who's a part of their operation, so they can't get rid of it. So now they got to start finding another black-owned firm to be able to do the same thing, do something again, some other thing, somebody
Mm.
else they can put the money with. This is a market and
Mm.
I've had a lot of people say, "Well, why you just want to talk about black, 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 black?" I said, "You idiot! What's the best card in your wallet? The black card." And if there's somebody who wants to say, "I will give you this money if you're qualified," you can't just be black. You got to be qualified. If you're qualified and you want to come into this marketplace, I have some money for you, and you could be a tier one diversity player. I got money for you. Well, that means I
Mm.
don't have to compete with everybody in the world, okay, and on the same level playing field because they're giving me a different playing field, and that's a heck of a market. And nobody, and you know what they're doing. They're looking like, that's why we look at Sprout Social. We could take it and put it into, if we took it over, they would become a black company. As a consequence, we, even though it's publicly traded, we have ways of structuring it. So it would have been black company and qualified to be a diversity player with the $1 billion roundtable, which means they would have access to all of those 43 big boys, and then therefore all the other Fortune 100 companies. And look at how much more money it would make, right? So trust me, I ain't finished with this, even though my team said, maybe look somewhere else. I ain't finished with them. So sometimes you find a dead company. So I'm suggesting to you all there are opportunities that we can find. And Sprouts, I love Sprout Social because they not just monitor your social media situation, they can deliver platforms around the world so that at special times, if I want to do asynchronous training, they can deliver it in Germany when the people need to see it in Germany, and when they're normally going to be there. They monitor how it's going to work. They have great product. And I'm not somebody who understands all these things. I'm a lawyer by training, and I have a background in finance and law. So, but I see opportunity. I know basketball, no backboard basketball league. I see opportunity. Okay, and anyway, I'll run out. As I said, I'll run off at the mouth. At 77, and lawyer, I'll run off at the mouth too much. But yes, we need to pay attention to starting up your own is good, but why would you start your own if somebody already has it and you could take it over? Okay, and you could take
That
it over,
part.
and you don't have to take it over. I'm always telling people, you don't have to take it over with cash. Investors don't put money in because your technology is so good. They put it in because they believe in the person who's selling it to them. So they believe in that person's got an idea, and they're going to back that idea. You can take over anything you want to take over, and it's available to us. So look for them, and then if you find something you really want, call me. I'll be able to say, well, let's think about it, and we'll find some kind of way.
Uh,
Thank you. Thank you
let me
very
follow,
much,
let me follow
Timothy.
up on two things real quick, Mike. That was awesome, Tim. First, our unlock to the market is a LOT, right? Where me and Mike are ramping right now to uh, 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 start sharing that with people. Our portable U-Hoop combined with an app, driveway, park, high school gym, etc. So this is right in line. I'll be going to the Peak Sports Tech Innovation Conference in April. Already got my ticket, already got my hotel room, the 20th to the 22nd. So it'd be great if we could at least get to the point of a LOI or a memorandum of understanding. And, I could walk into that room with something like that. And we have another tech partner, Big B AI, which is providing AI engine behind everything we're doing. So I'll follow up with that. And then also there's a company I want to take over. There's a guy that some of our branding is no backboard basketball played on U-Hoops with the rain basketball. This guy came up with an alternative treading on the basketball. He's been pushing it probably the past 4 years without major traction on his end. In my heart, I know I'm going to get it because when I wrote my original vision and you look at some original my sketches, it's a different designed ball, right? So just the whole imagery and some of our images that are on social media, if you pay attention, you see the kids, the high school kids particularly, that's where you see the yellow on the arm of the hoop, and it's a red hoop. In those images, they're playing with that ball. So I got two things to follow up with you because I want to get that ball within our ecosystem. We have a loose licensing agreement. I get royalties if I drive sales, but I think I can get that ball into our ecosystem and then drive crazy sales because it's associated with what we're doing holistically. So with that, I'm done. Thanks, Mike, for giving me an opportunity to just share that.
So again, two examples of how you can go about um, once you pull your capital together. You can either build it or you can acquire it. Um, Leroy and Philip, you guys have any comments to add to the discussion?
Well, I came on the call late. I've had a number of meetings today, so I'm listening in and taking it all in. And I regret that I missed Monday's call. At the time you were coming on, I fell asleep. So, yeah, but anyway, I appreciate it. And so I'll let Philip speak.
Phil, thanks for joining the discussion. You have anything to add?
Oh, there we go. I was trying to unmute. Sorry about that. I'm on the road. I got in late. Thank you for shooting me the invite to jump on. I'm just being a student, just listening and gleaning. And I love what both brothers are talking about. It's all about uh, creating economics. So anyway, it's about to get loud on my side, so I'm gonna go to mute again.
I forgot to ask you when I was on the
All
phone.
right. So, as a reminder, this is session 3 out of 5. Our next session will take place on Monday night at the same time, 6 p.m. on the Pacific time, 9 p.m. on the Eastern time. And on session 4, we're going to be focusing on um, cooperative investment networks and shared ownership. So we're going to really focus in on the pooled capital aspect and how do we go about pulling that capital together? What are some of the legal entities, and what are some of the risks, and what are the things that we need to be um, aware of when we pull our capital together? Um, Go ahead, Leroy.
Brother Joseph Jones is wearing my phone out, texting, said he didn't know a call was going on. He thinks it's still once every 2 weeks, and he way out of the so yeah, I don't know whether you could reach out to him and let him know about Monday's call, but he wearing my phone out.
And who was that?
Joseph Jones, the one that normally have
Oh
all the
yeah.
conversation.
Oh, okay. All right. Um, yeah, I mean, so this is separate from the every other Thursday discussion that we have. No, this is something new that we're trying. This is a series, a 5-part series where we're going in deeper and deeper onto this topic of ownership versus participation in the digital economy. Uh, and so, though this is a much deeper educational experience, and so that we get to spend more time, talking about our experiences and the specific topics that we're talking about on each session. And as always, you can um, view the recordings of the sessions at the BNIC website. And so I will put that link in the chat right now. Um, and you can just basically go to the bnic.com. And when you hit the home page, at the top will be a banner for Let's Talk About It. And then when you go to the Let's Talk About It page, it will highlight what the upcoming discussion is about. And then it'll show all of the previous discussions, and you can click on the link, and you can either watch the video um, there on the website in a small player, or you can click on the YouTube link and it'll take you to YouTube, or you can see a much larger size of the video. But all of the Let's Talk About It discussions have been recorded and are available for anyone to view. You don't have to be a CPIN member to view past sessions of the Let's Talk About It discussions. Um, with that, Mark, you have any closing words before we head on out?
No, this has been as always, a solid conversation, great contribution. And I appreciate everyone for their consistency in showing up and supporting the effort. So, and continue salutes off the mic for leading this charge.
And I also want to echo that for those that consistently show up. It shows your commitment to practicing cooperative group economics, to learning about the topics that we discuss. And we are looking to grow our viewership. And so I do encourage each person to invite one or two additional people to come to the next session that'll be on Monday. And with that, I want to thank everybody for coming. Have a blessed night and stay safe.
Happy Easter.
And
Happy Easter.
Yes.
Absolutely. Happy
Bye-bye.
Easter. Have a good one.